You may or may not be familiar with the Touhou franchise. If you're not, well, don't worry, because I'm not here to explain it to you, because I don't know either. Okay, so I'm a little bit familiar with it. It's one of the most licensed game franchises around. Some dude made a popular shooter and then let everyone else make games around it. Genius. There are literal hundreds, perhaps thousands of fan-made Touhou games that have been sold, are being sold, and will be sold. We reviewed a bunch of them on this channel, but this one, Touhou New World, as soon as I saw this, it made me instantly excited, because if there's one thing about these Touhou games, is that they tend to have a bit of a budgeted look about them. Fun, but ropey, with oodles of charm, if you enjoy squeaky voices. But this looks like a proper full-fledged game. It's a full-on action RPG with solid visuals and presentation. It looks like next level stuff for the franchise. But is it? Well, let's take a look at Touhou New World. Now, just a quick bit of info, Touhou New World is priced at $25 on the US eShop, 20 quid in the UK, with a 4.5GB download. There is no physical release in the West, it is digital only, at least right now, but there is a physical version in Japan and Asia, which does have English. If you want to import it, check the links below, click the link. You can also get a discount with the code SWTV23 for 5% off. But is it worth it? Well, let's take a look. Now, I know the true Touhou diehards will probably defend the lore of these games as though their manga collection depends on it, but in reality, that's never the reason why I enjoy these games. It tends to be impenetrable nonsense, but with this one, I went in with a more open mind. Reimu or Marissa, you can choose which character you want to play as, are transported away from their world. Outside, they meet up with a human called Sumireko, and then bring her back to Gensokyo, which is a big no-no, as you can imagine, because all kind of happenings kind of happen. And our heroine of choice must not only bring peace to their world, but the outside world as well. The entire universe is in danger, obviously. As you'd expect, it's not a narrative masterpiece, and is more concerned with shoehorning in boss battles with characters in the franchise, rather than telling a decent story. It's for fans of Touhou, not for fans of stories. But you'll be whirlwinded around from location to location, meeting all of them, fighting most of them, even your friends, because why not? There are distinct levels here, and there's a small world map to walk around where you can choose to do the story missions or the side quests, of which there are a lot, and they are quite important for growth. The gameplay is quite simple, but I really enjoyed it. You walk around rather large maps, each with a distinct theme, and you battle yokai in these 3D environments. I really appreciated how they took the same feeling and attack types from the shooters and applied them into a 3D hack and slash. You have a lot of moves that are all explained pretty well in the tutorial section, and for a game that is quite simple, they did put effort into the tacticality of it, which is not a word, but I like it, so I want to make it a word. You have your normal attack, which doesn't do much damage, but then you have 3 special attacks that have a cooldown period. You'll gain a handful along the way, and they can be equipped to the X, Y, and R1 buttons. The more you use them, the more they level up and get more powerful, so don't be stingy. You have a mixture of long-range attacks and closer melee attacks. Personally, I prefer the long-range ones because I'm a coward, and I don't like to look my opponents in the eyes as I blast them away. There's also a panic bomb matched to the L1 button. You see the shooter stuff? The enemies will throw 2 kinds of attacks at you, both of which you have to deal with differently. They throw melee attacks, of which are indicated by a blue flashing from the enemy. If you press the dodge button just as they attack, you will go into a slowdown mode where you can wail on them for a few extra seconds. You'll need to get used to this if you want to get anywhere in this game. The bullets, well, then you need to inelegantly jump out of the way, often into another bullet also flying at you. I'm not sure why this couldn't have been also dodged with the dodge, maybe that would have been too much, but hopping around like a coked up kangaroo isn't the coolest look ever. Unless you're Australian, then you'll probably tear up with pride. The normal enemies are kind of fodder and rarely pose a threat, especially since you can tap a button to heal yourself, which is also on a cooldown timer. Where the real challenge comes is in the boss battles. So yeah, still managing that shmup connection, you'll fight tons of bosses, some more of a pushover than others. These throw out all kinds of bullet hell patterns for you to dodge and then some. It all comes together rather well. It is quite repetitive after a few hours, and the gameplay doesn't evolve much past the tutorial, but the gameplay is compelling and fun enough to keep going and enjoying it. It helps you're always going from location to location, and I'm impressed by that aspect. You're always coming up against a new boss battle at the end of a level. I think the level designs could be more interesting. They tend to be just like long corridors with only like 2 forks in the road, one that opens up, the one that's locked. It's not the most imaginative in that sense. Other aspects the game has are obviously the RPG elements. Alongside leveling up your special attacks, you level up your characters as well. Her stats can be enhanced later in the game via strength stones using the special machine in the shop, so if you're struggling with the relentlessness of the bosses, you can do some of the many side quests to get more of these special stones to improve yourself. There's also equipment. You'll get lots of weapons, armor, and accessories, but the issue is, they tend to only have like minor differences. You end up with dozens of staffs, dozens of armor, and they're all basically the same. It's rare to get anything that's actually meaningfully a step up. I don't know why they threw so many at you, sometimes less is more. Visually, it looks pretty basic, but please name a Touhou game that looks better than this in 3D. There's real effort here from a small team, and I appreciate that. If you've watched me a while, you know that I'm a huge fan of PS1, Dreamcast, PS2 era gaming, and this is giving me the same kind of vibes that I adore. Still, indie for sure, there's still some ropiness in the animations, screen transitions and things like that, but it is charming. The frame rate isn't perfect, and it can get laggy at weird times, but they rarely impact the gameplay. With the fights and stuff, that's when it's at its most solid. The only times it does tank during battles is with the boss stuff, but part of me is convinced that's on purpose to help out with the, the bullet patterns in true shooter weirdness. The music ranges from decent to mildly annoying to badass, so yeah, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on that collector's edition with the soundtrack CD. As I said, there's no voice acting, which is unusual for a Touhou game, where they love their voice acting, but for me it's just a bit too much, so I'm kinda happy there's no voice acting. As I said in the intro, this is $25 in the US digitally, and I think that's a decent price for it. There is a decently lengthy campaign with lots of side missions, and of course, there are 2 characters to play as. For the going rate, it's not bad. But the physical version is where it's at for me. There's no physical release in the West, at least that's not announced as I'm making this, but the Japanese release and Asian regions version, not the Chinese one, okay, forget the Chinese one, the one that I've linked below, those have English. There is a standard edition as well as a collector's edition, which includes a special box, a soundtrack CD, and some kind of art book. It plays on every Switch console, so if you want it, keep it forever. Even when the Switch's eShop is dead or you want to sell it on after you've had your fill, then check the links below. You can purchase it and support us massively at the same time with our discount code SWTV23. But click the link first. That's how to support us. And remember, the one in the description, okay? There is one out there that doesn't have English. Don't buy the wrong one. I have linked you to the correct ones, okay? Overall, I think this is a really enjoyable game. I'm not going to go overboard with my praise because it's obviously limited in a good few areas like level design, gameplay evolution, and repetitiveness, but I can't deny I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. The battle mechanics are really solid aside from jumping like an electrocuted frog all the time. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of playing the awesome remake of Pocky and Rocky, just expanded with a full storyline and RPG elements, and that is certainly strong praise. If you enjoy that, I'm pretty sure you will enjoy this too. If I'm going to keep it a bit grounded, I'm going to give it a super solid 7 out of 10. If you're weird like me, you might want to, nudge it a point higher. Alright, thanks for watching. If you watched all the way through, please leave me a kangaroo emoji in the comments in honor of all the proud Aussies watching this. If you want to purchase this physically, then check the links below. You can support SwitchWatch at the same time. You can also check out my other channel, a bit more Jordan for a lot more me. The same kind of humor, just a lot more of it. Maybe I'll do a video about the Touhou games in the future. I don't know. Maybe if I go full time, please, yeah? Okay, see you over there. Goodbye.